Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. This is Super Mini Mail Call, and it's after dark, which is why I have all the lights off because it's late at night when I'm making this video. Let's get right to it. So this package here comes from Australia. There's no name on the outside of the box, but I think I know what this is because it says so on the box there. You just got a little peek at what this is. Inside the box there is a note and some other goodies. Looks like we have a bottle opener. I love Australia. Oh yeah, kangaroo, koala bear. Oh yeah, various Australian goodies. Where are all the things that are going to kill you? I don't really see that on here. Classic magnet bottle opener. I love Australia. Gifts with love from Australia. Awesome. All right, let's take a look at this note here. Hi, Adrian. Greetings from Sydney. Enclosed is the VT100-AB Advanced Video Option Board for the DEC VT100 terminal. Yep, that was a terminal I recently had on the main channel. This option adds additional attributes to all characters, an extra 1 kilobyte of extra screen RAM, allowing you to display the expanded 24 lines of 132 characters, and ROM sockets on the board for extended firmware. The VT100 User's Guide described this board briefly. At first I thought that the additional character ROM was on the option board, but that's not the case. Once I carefully reread the user guide and then the technical manual, in particular sections 4.1.4, the block diagram in the section 4.6 and the description of the character generator in section 4.6.7, the location of the character ROM became much more clear. The additional character ROM is ROM E9 on the main board, and the advanced video board only provides the attribute bit needed to select the second ROM. The 1982 field maintenance print set from the VT100, there are links down below here, has a sheet with a schematic diagram for the advanced video option board. On that diagram, there is a legend showing the additional ROM sets that may be fitted and the switch settings needed for each. The other switches are in the bottom right corner of the diagram and will require careful study to work out what they do. Smiley face. You'll need to source some standoffs to mount it on the main board. I'm not sure how many or how long they need to be. I'm hoping it will be reasonably obvious. I'm looking forward to seeing it working in your terminal. Cheers, Calvis. So yeah, this comes from Calvis, all the way from Sydney, Australia. Thank you, Calvis, for sending this in. Now, as mentioned in the letter, when you have the VT100 terminal, on the original terminal that came out in 1978, it lacks the extra memory to do some of the attributes. There are certain modes that it just can't do without this board in there. So it does more than just adds the extra RAM. This allows these extra attributes to work. But the extra RAM does allow that full 132 column mode to work. And I don't remember if I mentioned it in the original video series that without this board in there, when you run 132 column mode, it works, but you only get like, I don't know, 12 lines of text or 10 lines of text. It's so useless. I'm not even sure why that feature is there, because you only get part of the screen with that high resolution mode, and without this card, well, it just doesn't really work. So let's look at this card. So these are obviously the option ROM sockets, which are not populated. We're gonna have to have some static RAM on here, which is certainly, I assume, these chips here. This is going to be that extra RAM, I'm assuming. Now these are DEC part numbers, which is why we can't really tell what those are, but I bet you these are like 2114s, where 2 of these is 1 kilobyte, I think. So maybe 3 kilobytes of extra RAM. Now some of these have the normal markings on them, so 74LS, whatever. But then we have stuff like this that, who knows what that is? I don't know. And this blue package is a resistor pack. So it makes the most sense that this is going to be the extra RAM. And yeah, judging by the number of pins and whatnot, I'm thinking it is going to be the static RAM. So this plugs into the main board or the main processor card, and then we need some standoffs to attach it. I think I have some. I'm gonna go look. So I have a little tray here that has a bunch of things, and hopefully there are some standoffs that are going to be appropriate. Obviously that's not gonna work. That's for a PC motherboard. I think there are some double-sided ones like these. These might do the trick. It all just depends on how much space there needs to be between the main board and this. So we'll figure it out. I need to grab the board out of the terminal so we can attach this. All right, this is the main board out of the terminal. They certainly look similar, don't they? So obviously this is going to be attaching right there. I'm curious about the dates. 81, 81, 1981-ish. Looks like this board. And I recall this board actually seems to be very similar. Look at that. 33rd week of 1981, 36th week of 1981. So like these things are so similar in age, which is pretty cool actually. Now, as far as the standoffs go, we see the mounting holes that match up on this board and on the main PCB. I'm pretty sure that these are going to work a treat. So we just push those down until they click into place. They're little plastic things, so they shouldn't cause any kind of damage to the board. All right, well, I noticed that these aren't quite the right standoffs because these ones haven't clicked into place. And you can see that these ones which have, the board is too low. So I think I'm gonna have to break into this set, which also has a bunch of standoffs with little nuts and things, and I should be able to make it work. I've installed 4 of the standoffs, which I think are correct. All right, there we have it. This board is properly installed. I don't think it's going anywhere, even though these aren't the correct standoffs. I'm sure DEC had some very specific parts in mind for fastening this to the main board, but this should work. As for the dip switches, I hope we don't need to configure them because, well, I have to go decode the manual, it sounds like. Let's just try it just like this and see what happens. I gotta break the after dark motif by turning on the lights. Anyways, we have the terminal here and I have the back cover removed for removing and installing this board. And reinstalling it is as easy as just sliding it in. That's it. And I have to push it into that connector on the front, of course. All right, the power is reconnected. Let's turn this on. Reaching for the power switch. There it is. Okay, so there's the speakers in the keyboard, which, okay, well, we have a 5, which I think means keyboard not working. Hopefully that, I have to go look at the manual to see what means what. Let's turn that off and plug the keyboard in. Okay, so that was the initial smoke test just to make sure that it turned on, and it did. Keyboard is reconnected. Let's reach behind, find the power switch by feel. Beep, click, noises. Uh-oh, we have a 1. Let's get the camera in so you can see that. We have a flashing 1. What does that mean? Well, we still have a working terminal, obviously. The user manual, and it says error code 1 is advanced video option data RAM. So I guess this thing needs a repair. So I think what I want to try to do is set this to 132 column mode. Well, the little chart here doesn't really give me what I need to know. It just says 132 column down here, but it doesn't say which bit here I need to change. This is in the setup. It lists all these bits when you push the setup key. So if I push the setup key on the keyboard and we push 5, now it lists a bunch of bits here which configure the terminal in various ways, and one of these changes it to 132 column mode. I know if I push setup and 0, this will do a full self-test. It looked like I saw extra attributes there. Like, I think you don't get flashing, you don't get the various brightness levels without the option ROM, but we're still getting the 1. So if I push setup and I push Shift S, that should save the settings to non-volatile RAM. But yeah, we're still getting the 1 there. So I'm going to need to do a little bit of reading to try to see how to enable 132 column mode. I want to turn that on because if we're having RAM errors, then maybe we'll see visible issues on screen that we're not seeing right now because the actual screen buffer we're looking at is not on the advanced video card that I've just added onto the main board. Okay, you're not be able to see it, but on the manual I have here, it says that the advanced video board allows the terminal to display bold, blinking, underline, reverse, and any combination of those. You don't get those extra attributes without this board added on. This is in addition to the 132 column mode that I already mentioned. Now it says in the manual, you install the board like we've already done, put the standoffs on, you should power on without any error codes, which we do have. And it says press the setup key Setup A should be in boldface. To exit, press setup should be in underline, and that is underlined, which is good. Place the terminal in 132 column mode, then in local mode. Now it says place it in 132 column mode. I don't know how to do that. Like, which one of these options is it? I don't know. Well, this bit seems to do 50 hertz or 60 hertz, but that's not what we want. Oh, unless it's this message key, 132 column mode, or answer back is 80. Oh, I see right here, it says 132 column mode. You push 9. And there, definitely is 132 column mode. So, do we have all the lines available to us now? Without the advanced module, you only got 14 lines of text. Oh yeah, look, same problem. So we only have 14 lines. I can't go any lower than that. Again, it's kind of a weird thing that this mode even exists. Why does it even have this mode? Yeah, I can't lower the cursor any lower than that. Now setup obviously puts something down here, but in the normal buffer mode, that's just not the case. Now there's escape sequence, escape less than, escape hash 8 fills the screen, I guess, with the letter E, I guess. And it's only taking up part of the screen. So the advanced option is clearly not working, at least for the 132 column mode. So I'm going to spend a moment to read the technical manual, which I just opened up from BitSavers, and check to see if there's maybe a dip switch problem. Maybe that's what's going on here. Okay, I have gone through the technical manual, and it seems that the dip switches on the advanced video module are all correct. For this basic VT100, they should just all be set to, I think, the off position, or however they were on the board is correct for this terminal. Now, as for the flashing, you see, it's because I ran a diagnostic, a continual diagnostic, and what happens is it will run continually until it detects an error, and at that point it flashes the screen. So far, we're just stuck with this one error, and the manual's not really proving helpful. It just says for the power on diagnostic for the advanced video module, what it does is it writes to the memory and then reads back everything for the memory. I think it just fills it up with ones just to make sure the RAM is good, and it's saying it's bad. Now, what sucks is this is a full computer. It could tell me what address is not working or something, but there's no help at all. And because I can't arbitrarily read and write to that memory, it doesn't really help me, and I can't seem to enable the video mode that shows the 132 columns on the whole screen, because I could probably visually see that we have a memory problem, and it doesn't allow me to do that because it just detects there's a problem and it won't enable the card. Now, I don't know for sure if the extra attributes are working. I mean, it's showing them working here. We have the flashing bold and the underline, and I don't remember if it's doing that without the advanced video module. So part of that memory might be working. It seems that it splits the memory up into 2 chunks. 1 kilobyte times 8, so that's 2 of those chips, and that's for the extra columns, or 132 columns, extra lines of text. And then the other part of the memory is used as attribute memory. I think it's 4 kilobytes times 4 bits. So really an additional 2 extra kilobytes if you times 8, which is the 3 kilobytes that I thought was on the card. There were 6 of those chips. And yeah, it makes sense that it's probably 2114 chips, even though we couldn't tell that's what it was. Now, normally if this were a computer, I would just use like a debug or a monitor mode or whatever to figure out which RAM chip is bad. Looking at the schematics, I could just read and write to the memory. It doesn't give me that. I'm sure from the DEC manual, it's like, oh, you get error code 1, swap the entire card out. I suppose what I need to do is hook up the modem, and then I can connect to my Linux system and do the VT100 test. I need to see if the extra attributes are working, because maybe the only part of that card that's not working right now is 132 column mode, the extra lines, but the attribute stuff is. So let me get the modem hooked up, and then I can run that test. Okay, so I'm talking to the modem. I don't know if you can actually see this. This is a terrible video. It's terrible. I think that's the address of my Docker container, which has Alpine Linux on it. Let's see if it actually connects. Apparently that is not right. It says no answer. Okay, I had the IP address wrong. Let's try again. Oh, okay, that worked. So we'll log into this. And I have on here, oh, look at that, it has bold. So that absolutely looks like it's working. I think there is, maybe it was torture. I think it's torture test. I think that's the VT100. Yes. Okay. So we have bold. Oh, right. Flashing, bold. Now this test is a little bit corrupted for whatever reason on here, but this absolutely did not work. You did not get bold. You did not get blinking. I don't see any underline on here, but I bet you that's a problem. Yeah, see there's like some messed up codes and stuff here. I think this file is corrupted, but this is working a lot better. Of course, we're stuck at smooth scrolling now. This is working a lot better, and definitely the advanced video option board is working better than it, well, not having it at all. We would not have the bold, we did not have the blinking. I think you might have got, you got double wide, but I don't think you got inverted text. A lot of the features don't work. So it kind of means that this card is partially working, just the 132 column aspect of it is not. Let's quickly reset this. Did that disconnect my terminal session? Yes, it hung up my terminal session. Let's see if I can just redial back in. Oh no, we're stuck in the wrong mode. I have to push online. Okay, now we have access to the modem. Oops. There we go. I had to reset the terminal to get out of the smooth scrolling mode. Otherwise, you're stuck in that. So let's see. Yep, there's bold text. That is absolutely working. So what would be color normally on Linux? Of course, it's showing up as bold here. Now, I think the Van Halen file that I have here, this one also uses the extended attributes. And I know this because, yep, so it's doing bold there. I ran this on my VT220, which basically has the built-in extended video option or advanced video option. It's just not standard on the VT100, but the VT220 is a lot newer. So of course it supports all of these extra features. And I noticed when I ran this test on that terminal that this stuff was working. And I noticed as well that torture test that didn't work quite right on this also didn't work properly on there. So the file I downloaded is definitely kind of corrupted. Okay, so this sort of tells us that the attribute memory is working. And the part that's not seems to be the extra 1 kilobyte. So 2 of those chips that have to do with the 132 column mode. It's the only thing I can think of, and the only thing I can really go off of, because this thing's not really telling us any more about what's wrong with that card. And I don't really know how to run any extended diagnostics on it because it doesn't allow us to look at the 132 column mode to see where those errors are. And that's part of the problem. If I could just see the visual representation of the RAM and the error, like that lower chunk of the screen, then I'd be able to hopefully identify it. Then I think I'd be able to zone in on exactly which chip or bit or whatever's bad. But the terminal is not giving us any help whatsoever. Very, very unhelpful. And you know me, I hate just taking chips off to try to see if I can figure out what's going on. I think I'm going to keep going through the schematics to try to find I haven't seen the schematics yet for the advanced video option. Maybe I can figure out which chips on the advanced board have to do with the extra 132 column mode. And I might just have to take those off and swap them. I have extra 214s, and we can just try to see if that fixes the problem. I don't really know what else to do. Okay, I found the schematics for the advanced video board, and indeed it's 2114 SRAM. It's kind of like I thought it was. There's 6 of them. It's exactly like I thought by just looking at it. And these are the chips that handle the attribute memory, which I kind of assume are working because we have working attribute memory. And then it's my assumption that it's these 2 chips, E22 and E18, that are handling the extra columns, 132 columns of screen memory that are problematic. I mean, the problem is it could easily be one of these other chips as well, like this LS97 could be the problem theoretically. It looks like address lines come in from the connector. Data lines also go to the connector. So what is this chip even doing? Looks like it's shared with these other chips. Goes up to a flip-flop, has something to do with attribute memory. Wait, there's another 21114 up there. How many are on this board? I guess I missed one. Wait, it said there were 6. This seems like more than 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Wait, what? Oh, it's a 2111-A. That's a different type of RAM chip. Well, that's not reassuring. Maybe that chip is bad, and I definitely don't have one of those in stock. 2113, 106, whatever, one of those at E4. What exactly is a 1K MOS RAM? Is this a DRAM chip? No, this is not DRAM because it doesn't have the row and column, the RAS and CAS lines like a DRAM would need to have. It's wired up just like SRAM is. It seems to have something to do with the attribute memory though. Flip-flop seems to be the output for the attribute memory. These SRAM chips, these two, are just hooked up to the address lines and directly back to the data bus lines that go back to the main video board. Although they are hooked up to this LS97, which also wires them up to that whole attribute section for whatever reason. I couldn't tell you. Well, I gotta say, it's pretty frustrating. 2114s definitely go bad. I've had to replace them plenty of times on things before. But the fact that this gives us like no clues as to what's going wrong is so frustrating. And I'm not used to not having any access to tools to test stuff. Worse than that, this thing only really works when it's plugged into the chassis here. So there's no easy way for me to probe those signals. Although maybe I can take the cover off. Let's see if I pop the cover off. Oh, you know what? The board is available right there. So maybe what I need to do is start the diagnostic RAM test and use the oscilloscope to probe the data lines for the 2 RAM chips that have to do the screen buffer. And we just need to see if the data lines look correct or not. I think that's the only thing I can really try, because otherwise I just don't know what to do. Okay, I've written down that I am looking for E22 and E18 on pins 11, 12, 13, and 14. Those are the data lines, the relevant data lines that we're looking for. Now, part of the problem is that those data lines are just connected to the data bus of the entire terminal, which really means that we need to also look at the chip select line, which is pin 8. I'm just going to write that down as well, because we only want to look at those data lines while that chip select line is low. And ultimately the read-write line, pin 10, also needs to be high, because if it's low, that means the CPU is writing to the RAM chip during the diagnostic test. We need to see the reading of the RAM chip. Ultimately, I think the only way to really test RAM chips like this in circuit is with a logic analyzer. So I'm kind of feeling like I just need to pull those 2 chips off the board and test them outside of the terminal. That's the only thing I can really think to do at this point. So as much as I hate pulling chips off of boards randomly, I think I'm going to do that in this case, because I don't really know what else to do, and I don't feel like getting the whole logic analyzer set up and trying to trigger properly off those specific pins so we can check the outputs of these 2 RAM chips. Okay, I have a thought looking at the board. What if I try to piggyback those 2 chips? Let's do that first. Okay, we have a 2114 RAM chip, and I've identified which are the 2 relevant chips. So I am just gonna piggyback this one on top. Just gonna hold it in place and reach behind the terminal here and turn it on. Let's see what happens. Same error code 1. Now, piggybacking doesn't always work. It can work if the output driver on a data bit is bad, and this can basically override it. But if it's a bus conflict because the one RAM chip is saying 0 and this chip is trying to say 1, well, that's not going to work, because TTL can really pull down to 0 or down to ground really strongly, and the pull up is always going to lose, or generally it's always going to lose in a fight, in a bus conflict. Okay, I'm on the other chip, which is E18. See what happens. Yep, same thing, error code 1. So piggyback method failed. I suppose what I should do is get the camera a little closer. So I'm going to probe the data lines. I've written them down here. It's 11, 12, 13, and 14 on the 2 chips. I'm going to probe those, and we want to see normal activity. I'm assuming we should see normal activity just to make sure that they are connected through to the data bus on the main terminal board. Okay, so I am on pin 11. I'm going to turn this on. Let's see what we see. Lots of activity, which is what I would expect. We can't really make heads or tails of that. I can go in here and we can do reset. I don't know. It looks fine. That is pin 12, looks exactly the same. 13, same. Oh. Well, that's a problem. That's pin 14. That is E22 pin 14. Let's try resetting the terminal. Wah, wah, wah. Clearly something's wrong there. Let's check the next chip down. Okay, 11, 12, 13. I'm on E18, by the way. And there's 14. It looks fine. Hopefully that comes across in the camera. You can see there's plenty of activity. But when I check pin 14 on E22, it looks like that. Clearly a problem. Now I have the schematics open back there. And the chip that's not working, let me just validate. E22, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so we're on E22 pin 14. That's the problem right there. Well, let me mark that. And and the reason why I'm looking into that is I'm looking back there on the schematics, and remember how one of the chips was hooked up to that extra LS97? Well, that was E18. E22 is not hooked up to anything except it goes directly to that pin header that goes onto the main board, and it looks bad. Now, the thing is on the schematics back there is I don't know what's on the other side of that connector, the pin header. It could well be a bus transceiver, and that could be the problem. I'm assuming it's a bus transceiver because the whole terminal is working. I would think if that data bus line was crashed, it looks like it is hooked up to data bus line 4. So 0 through 7, it's on 4. And if data bus 4 for the whole CPU and everything was bad, well, there's no way this thing would even work at all. So clearly there's a bus transceiver between the RAM chip and the rest of the terminal. So we know data bus 4 is the problem with E22 pin 14, but we still don't know if it's the chip or what. So therefore, I need to do a little bit of more looking on the schematic to try to figure out what this goes to and see what's on the other side of that. Now, actually thinking about it, one thing I could just do is remove the whole advanced video board entirely and then check the connector. It looks like it's J1 pin 3. See if it looks normal when I remove the board. Because if it's the 214 that's causing that short to ground, well, then taking the board off should fix that problem. I guess it all depends on what sits on that pin 3 when the board is removed. Yeah, it's kind of weird looking at the schematics. It looks like that data bus line goes all over the place, which doesn't really make sense. Because if it was low on the main board, there's just no way it would be able to execute any code. I'm going to remove the advanced video board. I think that's the only logical thing to do here is just pull it off, and then I'll probe pin 3, which is, yep, that's the data bus line that looks low, and I want to look at what it looks like on the physical connector. Actually, you know what I'm going to do, and I know you can't see what I'm doing. There's no space on my bench. I'm going to probe from the pin that's not working, 14, to the connector, J1. Okay, we have definitely direct continuity to that pin. I just want to make sure that the connection on the advanced video board looks correct. So now what I can do is I can pop the board off, And now I know which pin it is too. And then I can check that pin to make sure it has correct looking signals. I still don't really understand how the terminal's running if that pin is definitely shorted to ground, as it looks like it is. Well, it's definitely not a dead short because we saw there was definitely activity on the scope, just wasn't looking correct. Okay, so there's the board. If we look at the pins, it's 1, 2, 3. It's that pin right there. It makes its way to that chip, which is E22. It's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, it's an 18 pin chip. So pin 14 makes its way to pin 3, which coincides with the schematics. That all makes sense. Okay, the scope, back in scope mode. Let's turn on the terminal. Should pass diagnostics this time. Oh, of course it's not going to work because I had to pull the card out. There we go, it's pushed back in. Let's try that again. To get the advanced video board off, I had to pull the card out. Okay, no error code. That makes sense. Pin 3, normal activity. Right, okay. So that's definitely pin 3 on the connector, and it looked normal. Well, the only other thing that's on there is that RAM chip, this one right here. And in fact, what I'll do, we'll just turn this off real quick, is I'm gonna grab some cutters and I'm just gonna cut that pin because I'm gonna pull the chip out anyways. So we'll just cut this pin, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All right, I don't know if you can see, but that pin is now lifted. So that means I am now no longer connected to pin 3 over on the connector. So I can actually look at the output of that signal on this IC. We can look at what it looks like. Okay, so the advanced video board is reattached. That pin is cut, of course. I don't have the screws in, but it is correctly attached. Let me just double check. Yeah, I can see the little standoff screw holes are all lined up. Let's power this on. Okay, so we should have the same error, 1. Yeah, we do. Okay, now if I check pin 3 on the connector. Oh. What? Wait. Well, now I'm confused. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, I cut pin 14, which is just doing nothing now. And yet, that looks bad. What? What's happening here? Oh, you know, now, is that data line connected to something else? On this board, that is? Besides the SRAM? It certainly didn't look like it on the schematics. Okay, so E22, pin 14, which is data 0 on that chip, goes to pin 3 on the connector. Now I cut this pin, and it's still looking screwed up on pin 3 on J1. That's the connector right here, that one. Now the question is DB03H hooked up to other things on the schematic? It doesn't look like it is here, but it might well be. Let's see what we see. Oh yeah, the ROM chips are hooked up to it, but they're not, there's nothing even populated on the board. Those are address lines. Looks fine. There are the data lines in question. These are different signals. I mean, the only thing I can see here is that these ROM chips. Well, I'm gonna turn off the terminal and slide the board out again. Ow. And I'm gonna take the advanced video board off. And I guess I just need to, I don't know, visually inspect this board. I didn't do that, but it's in really, really good shape. I don't see any issues with it. It does look like the trace from that pin. It's hard to see, it's under the chip, so I can't really see. It's on this top side of the board underneath. It looks like it does go over to the ROM chips, but there's nothing in the ROM chip sockets. So it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. What could be pulling this to ground? So pin 3, it's connected to the underneath where I cut, obviously, not to the top side. It does make its way to pin 14. which, what did we say it was? Data bit 4. Oh, yeah. Okay, I was thinking data bit 3. Okay, pin 14. So that's correct. So there it is, and it goes to all 4 of these ROM chips. And I'm looking around to see if this pin is connected to ground or any other pin, and I'm not finding that. I just reconnected that pin. So I just bent it back into shape and put some solder on there, a little blob. And it is definitely reconnected now. I can just test that by going from pin 3 to the top here where the chip is. And it is reconnected. So if I go to the top of the chip to pin 14, and it is reconnected. So I'm on the top of the chip to pin 14. So I'm kind of at a loss. I don't see how plugging this board in would cause data bit 4 on the connector here when there was nothing on it to suddenly look terrible. But with this board not connected, it looks fine. Okay, just for fun, I've pushed the board back into the chassis. Let's turn this thing on and switch this over to oscilloscope mode. And I'm going to check pin 3 one more time. There's pin 3 looking mighty fine. Let's wobble it around. Yeah, it's fine. No issues. Looks perfect. So why, when I plug this in, does it not look perfect anymore? This board is absolutely mint. Nothing's wrong with this at all. I don't see any issues. So I'm just going to pop this back on so we can take a look at that signal one more time, just as a sanity check again. Okay, it's on the board. Slide the main PCB into the chassis. Okay, it's in there. Let's turn this on. We're going to expect to see a 1, which we do. And now if I check pin 3, looks bad. I'm going to move the board around a little bit. Oh, did you see that? Oh, when I push the board up, it looks better. What? Okay, I'm going to hold it that way, and we're going to reset the terminal. No error. No freaking error. Did you see that? It's fine now. You gotta be kidding me. What? So if I just push this down a little bit, look. There's like a physical problem of some kind. You gotta be kidding me. Oh boy, Deoxit to socket? I'm gonna do that. Okay, I got my little squeezy bottle of Deoxit here. Let's slide this out. Now, I could see inside here, it's all gold, and so is it on the connector. Let me just inspect here. I mean, the solder joints look perfect. I see no issues. I'm just gonna squeeze a little bit of Deoxit into there, and pin 3. Same on the board here. I mean, everything looks perfect. I see no issues, but yeah. I mean, there's other, the connection problem has got to be on the main board. I'm just going to reflow pin 3 on both sides just to be sure, but that's got to be the problem. That has got to be the problem. Okay, let's do pin 3. There. Okay, looks good. Just took a tiny little touch. That was it. Okay, and here is the main board. Okay, that's, let's see, where's pin 3? 1, 2, 3, it's that pin. I mean, it looks perfect. I see zero issues with what we see there, but we saw it misbehaving. So we know there's an actual fault. We know there's a fault. Just make sure I do the right pin on the back here. All right, so let's Let's reconnect these boards again. Okay, there we go, push that in place. I will not screw it on until we've tested this. All right, I'm actually putting one screw in. But there we go. Ready for testing. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, power on. Okay, let's check pin 3. No, it's not working. What is going on? Okay, I'm going to touch the pin. I'm going to tweak the... What is it? What's causing this? All the other data lines are just fine. Is the problem on the main board? Oh boy, this is a tricky one. I hate physical problems like this. I bang on it, you see it kind of comes and goes. Can't really tell. Obviously, at this point, if we reset the terminal, it's going to be fine. Yep, no error. So it's working. But my assumption is if I kind of bang on this, it's going to get bad again. There it goes, bad. You know, I'm kind of curious now. Now that it passed its diagnostics, if we turn on 132 column mode, which is there, I wonder if I can cause it to kind of mess up. Looks like it's messed up right now, actually. Oh yeah, look at this. It's really struggling. If I just jiggle the board, it kind of comes and goes. No visible changes here, though. Oh, there's some. So we can now go down into the area. Oh yeah, look at this. It's acting up. It's screwed up. Look how the cursor kind of jumps around when I move this. Let's reset the terminal again. So no error. Oh, we're not in 132 column mode. Switch to 132 columns, exit setup. So now it's fine. Yep, no issues. Looks totally working fine. Oh, there was a little glitch there though. Did you see that? Whoa, look at that. I mean, me just touching the board is kind of making it come and go. Problem manifested, problem gone. Manifested, gone. I just still don't know if this problem exists on the advanced video board or is the problem on the main terminal board. I could try putting a bodge wire from the pin on the connector to, say, the RAM chip. I kind of feel like it's the connector itself, like the gold connector between the main board and this advanced video board. That seems to be... Oh, you know what? Let me poke the back side here. Okay, no, you know what? Maybe it's the main board. Because I'm poking the back side of the connector, and as you can see, it's coming and going. So we must have a bad trace. So it was really coming and going. I was poking the backside. Now there are no traces for that pin on the backside. It's normally supposed to be connected to this trace. And when I remove the board, I can go from the pin to that trace. But now with it on there, there's no connectivity. So I'm probably just going to install a bodge wire from the backside on the connector to the via that's between these diodes, I guess. And there's another trace that goes off the other direction. I'm going to put a bodge wire there too, because I don't know what's going on. There's obviously a break, I guess, under the connector. I guess. Okay, so it's not connected right now. Definitely not making its way through. What I need to do is see if this is making its way to that other via. I need to do it very carefully without pushing on the board. No, it's not connected. Okay, it's the connector. It's definitely the connector. Okay, so that pin works. That was pin 4. But pin 3, yeah, there's nothing. Okay, so it's not a bad trace. It's literally a bad connector. That's ridiculous. That is just ridiculous. It's all gold. What's going on here? All right, I'm gonna break out the big guns, the Deoxit D100. Let's see if this does the trick. So this stuff is very strong. So just a little bit, it's all you need. And you know what, if this doesn't work, I swear I'm just gonna put a bodge wire from this side right to the bottom side. And we'll just do away with that connector entirely. Okay, pin 3. All right, it's working now. I'm just gonna jiggle this around though, because, you know, obviously it came and went. Let's try again. Yeah, it's not connected now. So that was fake. I'm going to bend pin 3 a little bit so it puts some more pressure on the connector. Okay. All right, let's try now. All right, it's connected. It's not reassuring, is it? All right, well, I think for now, I'm just going to put the screws on and we're going to have to call this good. I'm not sure what else to do other than putting a bodge wire from there to the trace below. Just, you know, never remove this board, I guess. Okay, before I turn this on, I'm just going to check that trace. It's connected. So let's get the probe into the via that's there. Switch this to oscilloscope mode and let's turn it on. Looks good. And no error. Oh, keyboard's not plugged in. So that's that error. Let me poke the board. Okay, well, doesn't seem to be going off now. So I guess bending the pin did the trick, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. So keyboard is plugged in, turn it back on. We should have no diagnostic errors now. We do not. I can do a reset procedure. We can see all the stuff happening. Switch to 132 column mode, which is that. No weird line there like we were having that one time. And now this should totally work. And it does. Sweet. There we go. Full 132 columns actually freaking working. Okay, well, there we go. Calvis, thank you very much for sending this board all the way from Sydney. Now we can see that it actually works, and it was working. The attribute stuff was working, and now the 132 columns work as well. And the whole problem was not a bad RAM chip, which I was about to swap those chips out. It was a bad freaking physical connector, I guess, between the boards or something. Because even though the fancy D100 didn't fix the problem, we could see the problem with the oscilloscope. I'm really glad that I went ahead and checked those signals on the chip. And I guess my casualty was that I chopped the pin on the 2114, but I was able to reconnect that without any issue. And you know, to be honest, if anyone was looking at that board, they wouldn't even notice that that was broken unless they were going to desolder the chip and then the leg would stay behind on the board. But otherwise, yeah, this thing is now fully functional. And it's kind of funny in a way, thinking about this VT100, with regards to the original videos on the main channel, there was no problems with this thing at all. All of the digital side of this completely worked. There was that gunk on the keyboard, and there was that bad diode on the power supply, which really is not the fault of the diode or the design. It was just this thing was exposed to moisture, and those little sand diodes, they have issues. And then the other problem was the CRT controller board had bad solder joints, which caused it to burn a hole in the middle of the screen, and we had a collapsed deflection. But that was it. This VT100 is such a survivor. So anyways, there we go. Calvis, thanks again for sending in this awesome keychain and this board that makes this terminal that much better, because now we have the attributes, which really does make this a better terminal. And yeah, this thing is an actual survivor, and I absolutely love it. And I guess the question is, will it stay working or will it fail again in the future? So maybe I should just bang it a little bit here and we'll try resetting it a few times. Now it looks all good. So I think we're good. I think we're actually good. So that's it. If you like this video, thumbs up. If you didn't, you know what to do. Thanks to my supporters. Their names are scrolled up this side of the screen over here. They make it possible to do this full time. You can become a supporter. There's links in the description below. I think that's it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's super late. I need to go to bed. So thanks very much for watching. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.